are on. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Um, Please tell me who's on this evening. Good evening. We are at the house today. We have been snowed in today. Yesterday too, but we are snowed in. So I am super excited to come on this evening for our second episode of Healing Unlocked. It's your girl, Dr. Tasha Rose. I am a licensed professional counselor and I am a doctor of health science with a certification in advanced trauma, which I really help individuals who navigate the hospitals through, mental health and different things like that. So that is who I am. And this is Healing Unlocked. And we are going to be talking a lot about calming stories. This is the second episode, so I'm super excited about it. And tonight we're going to be talking about navigating through the storms, right? And I just thought that this was so great that I finally, like, I was aligned with today with being a storm, right? And then episode 2 was talking about navigating through storms. And so I'm like super excited. So if you are on Facebook Live, welcome. If you are on YouTube, welcome. I'm trying to find out what's going to be best for us, but I am super excited to have the conversation and get started. Alexa, turn off. We are going to dive right in because I think that this conversation tonight is going to be amazing. And I just wanted to show off my little gear, y'all. So this is my new hoodie. This is Purpose Born. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's Purpose Born, Romans 5:3-4. And I want you guys to, I'm going to take some photos later at a different time, but support your girl. This is about me being born with a purpose. And no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to persevere through my suffering. I'm going to become the person that God has made me to be. I'm going to persevere through my suffering, which I'm going to it's going to help my character, and with my character is going to bring me hope that I'm going to continue to do God's work. So that is my new hoodie. That is one of my new sayings for this year. Last year was faith, forgiveness, accountability, intention, transparency, and healing. And I still have my faith hoodies, so you are more than welcome to purchase one. But this one is a new one, and I want it. I'm going to be wearing Purpose Born for a while because I do believe that I was born for a purpose, and that purpose is bigger than just talking, right? But I just wanted to just kind of let you guys know that they are on sale right now. They are on sale 20% off. So they are $35. So please, you can inbox me and I can get you. I have about 4 colors. I think I'm doing this color here. I have black, I have red, blue, and purple. So I think these are the colors that I'm going to, using for a little while. So, anywho, let's jump into it. We're going to reflect on some storms that have shaped us, right? How many of you guys have gone through some storms that have shaped you? I know I have. And I'm really going to take a moment and talk about one of the storms that really shaped me, one of my biggest storms, and that is the death of my father, right? So we know that on this podcast, we are going to be talking about calming stories and self. However, in order to get to calming stories, we first have to go through some storms. And it always happens that way. Sometimes those storms come up and we are so stuck on the fact that we're going through something. But we don't realize that God got us going through this in order for us to persevere, in order for us to get to our next spot in our lives. So I wanted to tell a little bit about what storm I went through, and that is the death of my dad. Many of you know, and if you don't know, now you know. My father was killed in 2020 in a motor vehicle accident. And that was a storm for me. Why? Because one, it was something that happened unexpectedly, right? It was something that happened unexpectedly. He went to my uncle's. He was on his way to my uncle's house, never made it, was hit by another car, another driver head on. And my dad ended up bleeding, pretty much bleeding to death. And that time, over the last, over that first year, it was really, really hard for me. I think I was in denial for the most, for most of 2020. I had like this whole thing in my head of what happened with my dad, and he was on vacation or he was in North Carolina. I was very, very numb. And I didn't think I was going to be able to get through that, and I didn't understand why and how. And I had to experience this. And of course, I know I'm not the only one that experienced the death. My mother lost her husband, my siblings lost their father, our children lost their grandfather, friends and cousins and stuff like that. But my storm when I lost my dad was so impactful for me because I really thought that I was not going to make it. I really thought that I was going to be stuck and I would just die. Like for me, that was the thing, because I always used to say, like, I don't know what I would do when it's time for me to lose my parents. And it was like all like this unexpected thing, and this storm came rushing in, and it just really changed my life. It really changed how I looked at things. It changed how I looked at myself and how I looked at relationships and how I looked at just people in general in this earth. And so when I went through the storm, I just didn't think that I would come out of it in a good space. I really did not think so, guys. I was highly depressed. I was highly anxious. I was worrisome all the time. I kept thinking I was in a dream, and I felt like I was locked in the house, like today. Like I was locked in. I could not move, and nothing that I did made me feel better. And so I realized that that was an era. That was the end of an era that I would never hear or see or experience again. And that was the loss of my father. I would never hear his voice. I would never see him. I would never smell him. That was the end of an era. But the end of that era made me realize that my my joy and my dependence did not come from my father. And although that was a hard era, that was a hard storm to wither, I was able to come out of that stronger, and I was able to come out of that more in a space that was like, oh wow, like I really did survive. Like I came out and I'm surviving. And no, I'm not saying that this storm did not cause me to change, but the era of that storm, the things that I thought I was going to lose, and that was like myself and happiness and joy, God restored it. And I was like, okay, I'm still not, I still wasn't 100%, but I was excited that God still showed up and he comforted me and he got me through that storm. He protected me through that storm because I could have hurt others, I could have hurt myself, but God kept me. And although going through that storm of loss of my dad was really hard, it allowed me to stay strong. It allowed me to stay motivated and move and do the things that I needed to do. Because I'm gonna tell y'all right now, during the time that my father was here on this earth, yes, my father was very encouraging. He was motivating. He helped me stay on a path. But once I lost him, it allowed me to go further, right? And so it was the end of an era of having my father here on the earth, but it was the beginning of another era that was going to catapult me to where I am today. So as much as I say that that storm of loss of my dad was horrific, I did not think I was going to be able to rebuild from that storm. I did not think I was going to be able to recover from that storm. But I'm going to tell y'all, I have been recovering, and it doesn't look the way that I thought. And although I still have my moments, and although I still get sad, and last month I was really, really sad. This month, I'm still kind of like wavering, from the kind of like the remnants of the storm. But I will say that I'm able to get through it daily. I'm able to like realize that yes, that storm was heavy, but I am finally in a space where I can kind of see where I am growing. And I had to kind of experience that storm, right? And some people don't look at death as that, but I do. And as much as I miss my father, and as much as I was so angry with God for taking my daddy, I have realized that if my father was still here, I would probably still be, the little spoiled girl waiting on dad to give me kind of like the little push, whatever. But when I lost my father, it literally ended the era of dependence on him, and I was able to depend on God even more. And I don't know if anyone has ever been through that, but I wanted to share that story because I know that many of us have gone through some storms, and maybe those storms have really dismantled everything you thought life was supposed to be. And now you're in a space where you are more abundant. You have been catapulted into a space where now you're thriving. And that storm could be any storm. I just happened to have the storm of the loss of my father. Many people could have had all types of storms. But my thing is, how has your storm reshaped your inner self? How has it reshaped you? I'm more free. I'm less worrisome. I do get anxious at times because sometimes I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but that storm has allowed me to understand that I am going to be safe, and I am going to be lifted no matter what. And so I believe that we all go through storms, not to break us, but to lift us, but to motivate us and to put us in spaces that we will then move further and become more eager to do things that are more abundant. So I would like to know, like, do you guys think that you've been through a storm that has encouraged you and made you better? No, I want to emphasize that strength for me was not immediate, and you're not going to have strength immediately through some of these storms, right? Because y'all see all that snow out there. That's a lot of snow. And many people thought that they could just kind of weather the storm, like just get some of that snow up. No, it takes strength. It takes obedience. It takes discipline. You had to have a snow blower. You had to have a shovel. You had to have clothes that was going to keep you warm. And it's the same thing when you're going through a personal storm. You have to have strength. You have to be ready to kind of weather this storm. And so for me, because I know that I am a child of God and I believe what God says, I have been able to weather this storm of the loss of my dad, right? So it was not easy, and it has not been easy, but I've been being strengthened by the fact that I still have God with me to help me when I want to fall apart or when I don't want to rebuild. But I know right now that the self, to the space where God wants me to be. So that is my story. I don't know about y'all, but it would be nice if you are in the chat. If you are here on YouTube, or if you are on Facebook Live, please put some things in the chat. Let's have a conversation. Like, this is what this is about. Storytelling. Give me a story. If I can, I will bring you on live if you're able to. But I really, really think that it's so important that we talk about storms that have changed us and molded us to a better inner self. Because when we do that, we become more enthusiastic, we become more disciplined, we become more obedient, we become more joyful, right? When we weather storms that we thought would literally take us out, but we've overcame it and we're safe. So when I think about like on the psychological lens, well, let me take a moment and say hi to everyone. So I have Patrice. Good evening. Thank you for joining in. I have Mr. Fred Phillips. Good evening. Thank you for joining in. I have Ms. Monica Townsend. Thank you for joining, and welcome. And then Dr. Letitia Rainey. Thank you for coming in and joining. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful and comfortable evening. But it would be nice if you would like to share a story, or if you can comment or whatever. We are talking about really how storms really reshape us. And I chose to talk about grief, but all types of storms. It doesn't have to just be grief. It could be any storm in your life that might have reshaped you to have a better inner you. And so when I think about what I've been working on or dealing with in my personal life, and how navigate in this storm, I started thinking about like the psychological lens, right? So we talk about grief, right? So as a person who's okay, so Tahira chimed in before I go forward, said I would say grief from losing my job. Okay, yeah. And that's a big one. Sometimes, we don't realize that things of loss, it really causes us to grieve. It really causes us to weather a storm that we may not have been ready for. So sorry. If you are someone who has lost a job, you could be grieving that job. You can be grieving that I would say independence of financials, right? Your finances might have not been in the best place when you lost that job. So not only are you grieving the job, now you're grieving the fact that, oh my goodness, right? How am I going to make it through the next month, or the next 2 months, or, the next week? People who lost a job, or may lose a job, they're living paycheck to paycheck. So losing a job can be very grievous. Like, you literally can become stuck. So thank you, Tahara Woods, for really, really being brave to talk about the loss of a job, because that is definitely something that can cause us grief, and that can really change us. I would like to know, like, how did that change you when you lost that job? Like, and going through that grief, like, what was the positive from it? Because that is really the big thing of it. How did your grief, or how did your storm change into something more positive? And so it would be nice if you could share that, and we can share it with the audience. All right. I had to trust God at a higher level. Yes, this is so true. When you lose something and it causes you change, and if you are a person who is connected to the Lord, it really does force you to go closer, to be closer, more intimate with God. And y'all know that God wants us to do that. He wants us to be closer to him anyway. So that's why I said sometimes some of the things that we lose, or some of the things that we go through, it is not some it is not by mistake that we go through these storms, because sometimes God is trying to shake us up. He is trying to shake us up and bring us to a place that we just depend on him so bravely, and so uh independently. He wants us to be so connected to him. So I definitely believe, and I agree that the trust of God was stronger when you lost your job, because Who else you gonna trust in? You know, who else you gonna bring that to, and they're gonna really be able to help you through it. You know, if it's not God, who would it be? Right? But and it's like, how did it shape you? Oh, even deeper than that, how did it shape you as a woman, as a mom, as a wife? How did that change the way that you look at things, you know? And that is really what these conversations are about. How did things in our lives change due to the fact that we had to weather a storm? How? You know, not just depending on God, but what did it do for your inner you? Did it make you more reliable? Did it make you listen more? Did it make you move faster? Did it make you more obedient? Did it make you more humble? Right? It was very humbling, Ty said. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. When you lose a job, you lose a loved one, you go through something that people, like, especially if you've never, if you haven't been through something like deep, right? So like, I can't talk for you, Tara, but I can talk for me. When I lost my father, it was like I can finally understand a little bit deeper when people have lost their parent, right? I can't explain, or I can't say I understand exactly how other people might have felt. I just know, like, for me, it allowed me to be more empathetic towards people with grief, and loss of loved ones, because that was like, although I've lost other loved ones, like losing a parent is a different type of pain. And I don't care how your relationship is with your parent. When you lose a parent, it's different, right? But I could definitely say, like, losing a job can also become so humbling that when you get a new job, a little bit more thankful, right? You're a little bit more thankful for that job. And so when we talk about grief, y'all, we talk about grief as being a natural response to loss, right? Natural response to loss. It is something that anytime you lose something, you're gonna go through some grieving. You're gonna grieve some things. We know that Jesus grieved. He grieved his, friends and loved ones. He grieved them. He grieved people that he had to walk away from. So we are going to grieve. We have to remember that. So that's natural. So don't feel like you can't grieve, right? I know, like, sometimes I talk to some males and that come into the office, and they struggle with being vulnerable about the loss of things, right? It's easier for them, oh no, but it's like, be vulnerable. It's okay to say that you're grieving. And if you don't know what that is, like, explain how you feel so someone can help you understand that you're grieving on something, right? So I get that a lot from a lot of males, older males that come in and see me. And I also get that from a lot of women who have been kind of guarded, right? And it's more so like they express anger, they express these things that are, maybe a little bit um destructive. And so it becomes like you're grieving, and they don't really always understand it because no one ever taught them what grief looked like, right? It's not just sadness, it's a neurological, emotional, and physical emotion. So it attacks emotions, it attacks the nervous system, it attacks you physically. Like, people who grieve things, you could be in the bed for days, just like, again, this storm, it could just make you feel lazy, right? It can make you hallucinate, it can make you feel like you're dreaming. Like I told you guys, when I went through that storm of loss of my dad, I really was in denial, right? And it was real to me. Like, it was real until his phone got turned off and I couldn't hear his voicemail, right? But yeah, sure, sure. So I would say, like, with stages of grief, Ty asked, can I touch on some stages of grief? So, there's some controversy of sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7. But I use we have anger, we have we have acceptance, we have What else we have? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. We have acceptance, we have anger, we have resentment, we have oh, I just lost it. Denial, yes, yes, denial, and then it's one more. If you can help me with that, that'd be great. But I will just say, let's start with denial. So denial is something that you just don't want to agree, believe in it. I was watching, right, and the lady lost her husband in a he was a police officer, and because he died during like a pursuit, they couldn't release his body because it was still under like investigation. And she was in denial that her husband was gone because she didn't get a chance to see his body. And so, when people are going through grief, they can go through denial, right? It's not true. Also too, when you think about people losing jobs, because Tahara touched on that, when you look at the big, like, people who have been in like hedge fund groups and big corporations or VPs and stuff, and they lose their job, sometimes they go into a place of denial. Like, they can't accept the fact that they've lost their jobs. So they might even get up every day and go to work. They're not supposed to be there, right? So those things, it doesn't just happen with death, it happens with all sorts of things. Acceptance is when you finally get to a place like me, like, I'm accepting that my father is gone. However, I'm sometimes might get angry, right? Because stages of grief doesn't, it's not like it's just one linear thing. It's going to keep going up and down, right? um but when anger comes, sometime when you go through grief, you become angry. You don't want to be around nobody. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just literally just want to be alone, and everything just really like pisses you off, right? Or annoys you and stuff like that. So that is a part of anger, right? And then we have like resentment, right? We resent different things. When you lose something, or you lose a person, you begin to become resentful to the fact that maybe you resent yourself for not being there, or not doing such a great job, or feeling like it's your fault, or you resent the person that said something to you, right? Or somebody like whistleblowed on you. You resent the whole company, or your whole crew, because one person said something to you. Or, for me, I think mine was like blame and resentment, was a little bit on my dad. I felt like I blamed him a little bit because he was driving, and I'm like, it's COVID, you ain't house. Like, I went into that space, right? So that's like, that denial, I meant, sorry, that blame or resentment. That's that stage there. And then we have goodness. Hmm. I just lost my train of thought, y'all. But anywho, so I just want you guys to know, if you have any more questions about the stages of grief, you can always hit me up. So I do apologize that I wasn't able to go through all of them, but I do want to just let you know that these are natural responses. And if you're going through things, if you're grieving through some things, understand that yes, these are stages of grief, but those stages can come in flows, ebbs and flows. You can be in anger for a long time, you might be in acceptance for a long time, and then boom, you right back down to denial, right? So I don't think that once you get to one level, you're gonna stay there forever. These stages go up and down, up and down. It's not linear. Okay. Also, you need to also understand that when you go through storms and you're grieving through things and you're losing, sometimes you might feel like you're forgetting things, right? You might start thinking like, oh, something's wrong, I forgot to do that. Or, sometimes it's just your mind really trying to get you to understand that there's a change. And so don't get too hard on yourself. You might overthink. One of the things that I would say, especially when you're in deep grief, one of the things that studies show is that you should not make any big changes during the time that you're grieving with for that first year. You really shouldn't make any big decisions. And so I don't care how much education you have, because I definitely still did not listen to the stats, right? And I went and I tried to do everything I could to try to get my mind off of my father's death. And, I tried to take my exam again. I tried to get a new job. I tried to do a lot of stuff, and it wasn't time. I was just not in a space to make any big decisions, right? Understand, like, that first year of going through something that's life changing and you have grief behind it, try not to make any huge decisions within that first year, because you may not be ready to do it, and it can cause you to get stuck, right? So we want to make sure that we're not shifting back to or doing things that's going to hurt us in the long run. We want to make sure that we are doing things that's going to help us in the long run, right? So I have a new watcher, Miss Kit. Hi, Miss Kit. I hope that everything is well with you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you can find some type of um, hmm, information while you're here. But does anyone have anything to share? Anything that they would like to put in the chat? Or if you want to, maybe come on live with me, I'm willing to bring you on. I really don't know how to do it on YouTube, how to do it on Facebook. If you're interested, I can try to bring you on. But anywho, I wanted to also talk a little bit about really being gentle with yourself, right? After a storm, after going through something huge that is like life changing, being gentle with yourself. We have a hard time doing that as humans, right? It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, we have a hard time being gentle with ourselves after going through something. After going through something, we really have a hard time, like, being sweet to ourselves and showing compassion. And I will say, like, we have to be better with that. When things happen, we got to take it easy, right? So, like, yesterday, I knew for me, like, I stayed in the bed all day yesterday until I had to get up and cook dinner, and then I got right back in the bed. But then this morning, after the storm kind of settled down and it was no longer snowing, but there was aftermath of the storm, I got up, I did some reorganizing. I just did a lot of cleaning, and I felt good. I was refreshed. And sometimes I look at that as, when you go through something and you finally get a moment to, like, breathe, it feels good to get up and just reorganize and reset and refocus and just breathe. So I just want you guys to know that you gotta be good to yourself. You gotta give yourself compassion. Yes, Miss Kit, thank you. I am so excited that you are following me, and you give me so much encouragement. Miss Kit was a guidance counselor at Prince Tech when I went there, and just to know that you can see me as an adult, when I was a knucklehead in high school, but always, wanted to do good. But I can see, like, the structure that you were, building for us. So I thank you, as an educator, and or just as someone that worked in the school. I do appreciate you as a fellow counselor. So thank you, Mrs. Kit. But yeah, so we have to be compassionate with ourselves. We got to give ourselves some grace even when things are going crazy. We don't want to get to a space where we feel like we're alone, or we feel like we can't give ourselves any grace because we got things to do. You're always going to have things to do, but when you're going through something, you got to sit and breathe and give yourself some time, so that you're not just being impulsive, because you need to still be able to go through things and think about it, and dissect what's happening and process, right? You need to name the problem, right? Name the storm. I'm grieving because it brings clarity and compassion to me, right? Um, when when you think about different things that you oh wait, Patrice said grief is like a ocean. Any shifting any shifting can cause a ripple. Oh, yes. Yes. Let's talk a little bit more about that. I love these counselors that's on here. So when you think about the ocean, y'all, right? Um I love the movie Castaway. I just and my sister thinks it's the most horrid movie ever and it's boring. But I love it because the chaos of that storm shaped the way that he thought of life. He had to use all these types of things in order to get through. But the thing that I want to connect to the ocean is that even when he thought he was good enough to do like to get through and get on that little makeshift boat that made, the water, the tides just kept coming. And every time he thought he was about to get somewhere, the tide just shifted, the water shifted and threw him off, and everything just went chaotic. But he kept going. He kept going. He kept trying to find ways to get up and not be stuck in his grief. Because although the storm was there and it could have killed him, he didn't. He went through so many different storms from that one storm, but he persevered. And y'all don't understand, like that movie has, it always has a deep meaning. Every time I see it, it reminds me of the fact that when we go through storms, and yes, we've lost things, but we got to keep moving. Even when he finally was rescued and he went back to his ex fiance, and although he still loved her, he knew he had to move forward. He grieved her, she grieved him. And then it was just like, boom, they finally see each other. And it's like, but I know that I got to keep moving forward. And so all these things, y'all, y'all understand. Like I get meanings out of everything. I see things out of everything. And so thinking about the ocean, when you brought that up, Patrice, like that is so real. Like we can be sitting in our car thinking that we're doing something and somebody can blow the horn, or someone can drive up next to you and have music on and it reminds you of something and just throws you off. Somebody can have a perfume or cologne on and it just throws you off. And when we think about the ocean, how the ripple effects of things and it just keeps going and going, like that ripple, it takes time to get back to you. But then when it gets to you, it throws you off. But you got to get back up. You got to keep going to the next ripple, because the ripples are going to come. But you got to be ready. You got to be strong. You got to persevere. You got to move forward. Because we're going to have storms, y'all. We're going to go through things over and over and over again. But it's not the end. It's always a new era. I said that earlier. It's a new era. It's not that we're forgetting anything. We're just a new era. And we have to learn how to navigate that new era. Right? When you think about also different things that you lose, sometimes it's great to have memories, right? Think about the positive memories, right? Maybe some anniversaries or rituals, right? Especially when it comes to losing a loved one. Now, when it comes to losing a job, maybe you don't want to do any anniversaries or rituals or whatever. But when it comes to losing a loved one or something that was so close to you, it's important to do a memorial, right? I'm real big with memorials. I think that people should do memorials when you lose loved ones. Like my dad's birthday is always like right either the weekend of Father's Day or on Father's Day. And so we always try to have a birthday for him, birthday party or a cookout or something to honor him. We have a tree that we planted for him. We talk to it. I know I do in the morning. And so it's like certain things you can do to memorialize them. My parents' anniversary, I try to get my mom flowers or candy or something like that, just so she could still feel loved on that special day. Because those are things that, it may not been my storm losing a husband, but that's her storm, right? And so I want to make sure that I can do something to help her, go through that ripple that she might have during those times, right? We can also make sure that we're feeling safe in the spaces that we are talking to trusted people, right? When you're going through storms and you're going through things, you want to make sure the people that you talk to are like they want you to talk to them and they want to hear you. They just not sitting there as a body. They're really sitting there listening, and they want to help you, encourage you you're going through. You want to make sure you're building a community, that you're making sure that you're being strengthened by the community, right? Making sure those things are helpful, and that you're not just taking in other people's energy, because if you take too many people's energy, then how are you dealing with your own stuff? So Patrice says each storm is a teaching moment in our lives to help us build, to help us weather the next one. Agreed. 100% agreed. And just because we had one storm don't mean that we're not gonna have another one. Sometimes some storms come back to back, y'all. Whew. Like, I know, like this morning it stopped snowing. So the a guy came and did our driveway. Thank you, Jesus. But then, like, we ain't still ended up getting like 2 inches of snow. And I'm like, it was back to back. So sometimes we have back to back storms, and how you get through the first one may help you get through the next one. And that is the goal. That's the goal that, like, you should try to hold on to. Like, don't get stuck on um last time, but get stuck on how you got through it, and kind of use those things to help you navigate through the next one and the next one and the next one. And like I tell y'all, God should always be in the picture. He should always be in the picture, even when you are upset with him. Still invite him in. God, you can sit next to me, but I don't want to talk to you. I invite you over to me, but I'm mad at you, God. Be honest with him, but invite him in. Let's see, what else can we think about? Allow growth without guilt. Learning to smile again, learning to go out and have fun again. Sometimes when people go through storms, they feel as if it's a shame that they go out and start having fun again, or that they smile and want to do things and want to celebrate themselves or others. That's not fair to make people feel that way, including not fair making yourself feel that way. But why do we do it, y'all? Why is it that we sometimes feel guilty about having a great time after a storm, especially the loss of a loved one? And a lot of that is because we feel like, oh, we're not worthy. We shouldn't want, like, we just had a huge loss. And I'm gonna tell you, if that person is connected to God and was good with God, that person is good. And that person wants you to enjoy yourself. He wants that, like he or she wants you to enjoy yourself. If you lose your job, like Tahara said, if you lose your job, after a little while, it's still good for you to get out and enjoy yourself. Go to happy hour even though you don't have a job. I'm not saying that you're going to go out there and waste money, but if someone invites you, go do it. You deserve it. It's an opportunity for you to get back and get going. Because sometimes we get to a place where, oh no, I shouldn't be doing that. I just did this. I just lost this. I just lost that. So what? So what? I even found myself, I told you guys, like, my boiler has been broken. Yeah, it's been broken, but God has still allowed us to have heat and everything. But a moment made me feel like, God, you want me to be doing all this stuff, and I need a boiler replaced, right? And I was like, in a moment for a minute, I was like, I'm grieving my boiler. I'm grieving my heat. Like I'm grieving it. And in a minute, I'm be grieving this bill. But God made me realize that it's a reason why I'm going through what I'm going through. And it's just a storm that I have to weather. I have to weather the storm. And when I'm out of this storm, I'm going to be able to give y'all another great story. Because that is why we're here on this earth, to encourage, to motivate, to love, to find joy within each other. And so no matter what storm you guys are going through, whatever storm we're going through, there's supposed to be something positive at the end. And it doesn't always feel positive, but it's something positive at the end. And if you believe what God, it'll be easier for us to weather storms together, like I said earlier, as a community with people that we trust, going out and not feeling guilty about hanging out and doing stuff and putting a smile on our faces. Because we can walk around being mad and angry and mean looking, but we have, every day we wake up, we have a reason to smile. We have a reason to go have fun. We have a reason to be happy. Don't let no one ever tell you that because you're dealing with something or you're going through a storm, that you don't have the right to be excited about the next day or what's to come. Because you do. That's the purpose. The purpose is for us to go through things so that we can persevere, so we can build character. And it gives us hope to a future. But if we don't go through nothing, what are we doing? How are we showing up for other people? How are we helping people move if we never go through anything? Right? So also know that being calm and being in grief can coexist. Now, y'all might say, how is that? Simple. Just because someone's grieving doesn't mean they got to be walking around looking like they're grieving. You can be grieving and still be calm, still be willing to move forward and have positive thoughts and do positive things. You don't have to be anxious just because you're grieving, right? I look at grief sometimes somewhat of fasting, right? Just because you're fasting, people don't need to know. And just because you're grieving, not everyone needs to know. Everyone does not need to know what you're going through in order for you to be grieving or to go through your storm. Everyone don't need to know. Now, I'm a transparent person. And I'll talk about stuff, but I don't talk about stuff to bring like, sympathy. I talk about stuff to honor God in the midst of it. And so when I give my story, it is not for anything other than I can't wait till the testimony come because I know it's coming. And so when you think about grieving and still being calm in the midst of it, that's power. That's faithfulness. That is what you are. You are being obedient. You are showing God that you trust him. And so that brings you even higher. So when I tell you guys, being calm and grieving can all coexist. Don't let anyone tell y'all different. Don't let them tell y'all different. So I do have 3 questions I wanted to leave with you guys. We have about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to just like leave some questions, and maybe if you want to answer them, that would be great. But the first one would be, what storm did you think would destroy you, but you came out stronger? So I kind of asked that question earlier. I know Tahira said her job. Else have a storm that they might want to share, maybe you thought would destroy you, but you came out stronger. And then Another question would be, how does grief show up for you today, emotionally, mentally, or physically? And that's another thing. Like sometimes we don't like, for me, I know emotionally it just makes me sad. I do become a little anxious. I become very like how you say it, bratty. Like I just want to be held. I just want someone to sit down and talk to, and like, yeah, I pray, I talk to God, but sometimes it's different when you got somebody that you could just like sit, maybe watch a movie with, somebody that you can laugh with. That's the type of stuff that I like. When that's how it shows up for me when I'm grieving. I become very, very clingy, put it that way. I become very, very clingy. But how does it grow? How does it show up in your life? Emotionally, physically, and mentally. And then the last question would be, what does calm look like for you right now? So like, how does it look for you today? Today. So I know for me, today, grief looks like uh busyness. I was really busy today because although like I'm in a very good mood, and I told you like I did get up and clean up, but while I was cleaning up, I played the OJs, like my dad's favorite, like one of his favorite songs, his favorite groups is the OJs. And um every time I listen to those songs, it puts me in a space to feel like when my dad used to clean up, right? When he used to clean up the whole house, my father was very meticulous on making sure the house was clean. And he would take stuff down, the knobs off the stove, and open up the oven and clean that, and take the little the top off the stove top, clean everything. He was very meticulous about how he cleaned. And as I was cleaning, I could just think of him. And that's how I'm grieving today. Although I knew that I had to weather the storm at home with my mom and my daughter and the dog with 13 inches of snow outside, I still was able to connect with the fact that, yes, I'm grieving, but I'm going to show up in my grief today and do it with power, do it with joy, and keep my father's memory alive with it. So if you guys have a story, or if you want to answer those questions, I'm going to repeat the question. It says, what storm did you think would destroy you, but you came out stronger? And then the second question is, how does grief show up for you today, emotionally, mentally, or physically? And then what does calm look like for you right now? Not later, but today. And those are the three questions. If you guys would like to even, respond to them later in the replay, that would be great. I also think that maybe you guys can DM me if you would like, if you wanted to answer those questions, or do a private journal writing or journal entry with those questions and keep it for you, and see like if anything comes up later on in the month, or later on in the year, and you go back and you can look at that, because we got to know that your story matters even in the middle of the storm. The death of my mother and husband within 2 months apart of each other. Ooh, yeah, yeah. I am so sorry. I did not know you've lost your husband. So oh, is it your mom and her husband? Make sure I'm getting that right. So your mom and her husband passed away 2 months apart, and that is a storm in itself. Those are two storms, and so I definitely will continue to pray for you guys who all have shared. Oh, I missed that one. Each storm is teaching moment in our lives to help us build up. Okay, no, I got that earlier. All right. But I appreciate you sharing, Patrice. That's very impactful. And that's what I was kind of, talking about earlier when, oh, so it was your husband. Okay, I did not know that you lost your husband. My condolences. And I would love for you to come on soon, to talk a little bit more about your own stories. Again, starting next week, I will be having uh, a guest in my chair. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited for week 2, episode 2 of the Healing Unlocked podcast. I think that this is going to be a blessing, and I'm super excited that God put this on my heart. And each week, I will be discussing different things and bringing on different stories. So just know that there's going to be good stories, like happy. It's going to be sad. There's going to be controversial stories. I am not looking to just, you know, I want people to be able to share, and I want others to be able to chime in and understand that you may not be the only person going through things. And I know, like, it's like kind of cliche to say, like, you're not always the only other person who's going through things, but I don't say that as a cliche. I say that to be honest. you know I speak to about 40 people a week, and just hearing some of the things that these people are going through each and every day, it gives me inspiration. It gives me character. It gives me hope, because it allows me to see that God is in the midst of all of it. So when I tell you, I can't wait for people to come on and share their stories and to have some healthy conversations or even debates, right? Because I know I'm going to have some debates with some of the men that come on, because, that's what men do. That's what women do. We like to debate each other, right, on certain things. Even some women, but I could see it with some of the males that's going to come on and share stories about certain things, maybe relational or maybe even work. Like, I love those type of healthy debates, right? Because it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and it gives us girt. So and I enjoyed your session, so inspirational. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kit. Please join in next Monday. We will be having more conversation, and we will be having a guest next Monday. So I'm excited about that. And I can't wait to bring somebody in to sit with me. I'll be back in my office, and we're going to be having a conversation. I'm trying to see if it's better to tell you guys what's coming up next or keep you guys in suspense. If you do see this in a replay, please put a comment in the chat if you would like to know what's coming up next, or you feel like we're going to keep it more so of like suspense. I want to know how we want to move this and groove this, right? We want to grow this. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to be able to share more with everyone. All right, so that is all I have for y'all tonight. I pray that you guys have a wonderful evening. I pray that y'all continue to stay warm and excited about growth and joy, and just keep pushing, because it's only going to get better. And remember, just because you've been through the storm doesn't mean you have to stay in it. All right. It's your girl, Dr. Tasha Rose, your transparent sister in women's healing. And I want you to know that I love you and God loves you too. Peace.